With solos by Max Ferry. And Nick Marks, right? The lead drummer. No, not me. It was Claire. Claire was Nick, no, later. Nick is later. So, that was a piece called Chameleon. This is our third year of having a jazz band here at Milton after a long hiatus. When I started the jazz band 3 years ago, we had 12 students, and they rocked. And now we're up to nearly a full band with 8 saxes, 4 trombones, we got 5 trumpets back there, and nearly a full rhythm section minus piano. It's hard to find a good piano player these days. If you know somebody, let me know. So this year was challenging because we have a mix of mostly high school students with some middle schoolers in there. Go ahead and like raise your hand if you are a middle schooler in the jazz band here. We got 4 back there. So yeah. They're in 8th grade, so they're joining us in high school next year. So rehearsals were quick and kind of sleepy as we met on Mondays and Fridays from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. as much as possible, which wasn't always very consistent. Holidays, weather, any number of other events constantly kept us from having everyone at rehearsal. Honestly, saxophones are kind of MVP in the jazz band. You guys showed up just about every time, most of them. So, yeah, saxons. No offense, you guys were there a lot. So regardless, we were able to put together about 50 minutes worth of music that we performed at the Lewisburg Arts Festival a few weeks back. So if you saw us there, that was an extended concert. We're just going to play 3 more tunes for you here tonight. These are new songs that we learned just this year. So next up will be a piece of music by Huey Lewis and the News. This is called The Power of Love, written, I believe, specifically for the movie Back to the Future. the batter sax. There it is. Shout out to Owen Heintzelman on cowbell. Always more cowbell, right? All right. Maybe next year. There is a piece of music for band called More Cowbell. If you went to SVD this year, one of the other band directors did that one. They really, no. Save that for. All right, so we're gonna do something that's not on the program. This is a little sax quartet that we inspired by our very own Max Ferry. He really wanted to play this. He found it. He put it together and rehearsed it for the most part with these guys. So we're gonna have Max and his quartet come on up here and play. It's called the Metal Gear Medley. So if you know the video game Metal Gear Solid, or any of the bajillion other Metal Gear games, these are themes from that. What's that? This is a medley of tunes from those games. So they're going to start off and play it all themselves. Let's hear from Max and the Milton Sax Quartet. All right. So before we go on to our next jazz piece, I would like to recognize the only senior who's not performing later in our other ensembles. We have Juno Weaver over on bass. Juno joined us just this year in band. He joined us in marching band on bass drum, became a very valuable member of our marching band team. Couldn't fit band into a schedule or choir, but was able to show up for marching band and jazz band, and has done a great job learning bass and just being an awesome guy working with our group. So thank you so much, Juno, and congrats on graduating. So next on our program is a piece by the Edgar Winter Band. It's called Frankenstein. last but not least, Elias Franciscus Ochoa. We're take it back about 80 years, and this is Sing Sing Sing. Let's hear it for the jazz band. Saxon, stand up. Not to mention Levi Schiff, who jumped in on bass on that last one. All right, next up we'll be getting reset here on the stage.